Wait, what? You mean this guy caused the Big Bang? Now, how did that happen? Hello and welcome to the Chain Smoking Writers channel. In case you didn't know, that's me, the Chain Smoking Writer Apingor, bring you myths, legends and histories of the Chinese people from the first creation myths to the last imperial dynasty. And today is the first episode of the myths of China, and we are going to talk about Pangu, the first creator and basically the creation myth of the Chinese people. So let's get on with it. Well, in the beginning, there was a void. There was nothing out there. And in this void, there was an egg. And in the egg lies the universe. But it was not the universe as we know it today. It was just a mass of energy, both positive and negative, swirling around in itself, like in a primordial soup of positive and negative ions, if you would. But within this primal soup of energy, something was forming. The energies and the positive and the negative charges, they started coalescing in this egg. And it formed into a being. And this being was the first creator god named Pangu. So Pangu slept in this egg, slowly forming from a sliver of energy into this humongous giant, and this took 18,000 years, and he slept for 18,000 years, slowly coalescing and absorbing all the energies of the universe within this egg. And after 18,000 years, Pangu woke up. So when Pangu finally awoke from his deep sleep and opened his eyes, all he could see was nothingness. It was empty all around, and all he could feel was this unbearable sense of constriction, I mean, we are talking about a giant that's trapped in an egg. So what did he do? What did he do under these circumstances? So he stretched himself up, and he stretched and he stretched, and he hit the walls of the egg, he hit the shell. And so with an axe in his hand, he broke through the top of the shell, and with a kick of his legs, he broke out through this shell. And this caused a great big boom that sounded across all eternity. So you can say that Pangu was the guy that caused the Big Bang. But that's not the end of the story. Because he broke the egg, all the energies that was trapped within it, together with Pangu, escaped out into the open. And all the light and all the airy elements and all those stuff started floating to the top, and all the darker and denser materials started sinking to the bottom. Having broke out of the egg, I mean, I can just imagine how relieved he must have felt. I mean, imagine that, man, being trapped in this little space for more than 18,000 years, and you just broke out of it. I'll be dancing, man. Like, seriously. But Pangu was glad and he was happy that he actually came out of it. So he decided to take a look around, take a deep breath, enjoy his newfound freedom, But the sky was too low. I mean, this was a giant we are talking about, and the sky is too low. And it started pressing down on his shoulders, trying to squeeze him down into the ground all over again. And Pangu got worried. He was like, dude, I just came out of a constrictive egg, man. And now the heavens and earth are trying to merge back together, push itself back together, and trap me all over again. No, I'm not going back into a little box again, man. So what he did was that with all his might, he pushed up against the sky, and he pressed down to the ground with his feet. So it's like the ultimate squat, if you would. If you have done squats, yeah, Pangu right now is doing the ultimate squat, with all the weight of the heavens on his shoulders and bracing himself on the land. And every single day, Pangu grew 10 feet taller, and the ground below him accumulated 10 more feet of material and grew 10 feet deeper. And so, for the next 18,000 years, Yes, another 18,000 years. Pangu went without sleep, he went without rest. He was just pushing the sky up and pushing the ground down for 18,000 years. When he was hungry, he'll find sustenance from the winds and the dust that blew into his mouth. And so for 18,000 years, growing 10 feet every single day, by the end of that time, Pangu was 90,000 li tall. So 1 li is about half a kilometer. So by the end of 18,000 years, he grew to a height of 45,000 kilometers. So he pushed the sky up that high and he pushed the ground down that low, and he created that space in between the heavens and the earth after 18,000 years without sleep, without rest, and that's where he got. And so after 18,000 years of no sleep, no rest, no food, no sustenance, I mean, the dude was exhausted, man, by this time. And he's like, okay, I guess that's enough, it's far enough. The sky and the earth, the heavens and the earth would not crash into each other again. I think I've done enough for now. And so he just sat down and he lied down to take a rest and look into the sky, and he was glad at what he had done. Well, little did he know, this would be his first and final rest. As Pangu laid down in his deep sleep, his snores became the thunders of heavens, and his left eye became the sun that brings warmth to the land, while his right eye became the moon that lights up the darkness in the night. Pangu's willowing hair and beard and mustache became the stars and the constellations that decorates the night sky. Pangu's head became the sacred mountain of the east, his feet became the sacred mountain of the west, and of course his right arm became the sacred mountains of the north, and his left arm the sacred mountains of the south. And his torso became the most majestic sacred mountain of the central regions, and thus the 5 pillars of the world was formed, holding up the sky to prevent it from ever falling down again. And all these sacred mountains would also set the cardinal directions, the north, south, east and west and central. Pangu's blood became the rivers and the streams that flows through the land, and his tendons became the roots and the paths that spiderwebs across the realm. His muscles and flesh turns into the rich, fertile soils that give birth to life of plants and flowers and all the beautiful things you see. And his bones and his teeth became the rocks and the minerals and the iron ores that you can find in the ground and in the mountains. The skin and bodily hair of Pangu turned into the grass and beautiful trees that covered the entire land and grew upon the soil. And his perspiration and bodily fluids turned into the rains and the dews that nourishes these plants. And as Pangu drew his final breath, his spirit and his soul left his body and transformed themselves into all manners of life that we see on earth today. All manners of creatures, of hooves and of paws, of wings and of scales, of beaks and of maws, warm-blooded, cold-blooded, all manners of birds, fishes, insects, all creatures big and small that you see in the world. And thus, the world was created. Now that was an interesting story to me when I first read it. There are a few points that actually stood out to me. One was the name Pangu, which in certain senses is translated to the term Pangea, which, as you know, is one of the first supercontinents of planet Earth. So I don't know if there's any relationship there. If you know, please leave it down in the comment section and let me know. And another thing is that how this creation myth kind of reminds me of like really the scientific Big Bang theory, because both of them started the universe in a giant bang and the explosion of energy and the explosion of space and time. So I don't know, man. This is a story that was written like thousands and thousands of years ago. So how did these people came up with all these ideas? So something. So that's another thing to ponder about. And if you notice, Pangu only created the world and the universe, but there are still no humans. So for the creation of humans, you have to watch the next episode where we talk about a goddess that created humans. Now, if you feel that I have earned your time and you have enjoyed this video, please remember to drop some likes. And if you'd like to see more content like this and listen to more stories like this, drop me some subscriptions in the box below there. And remember to click the bell icon so you get a notification whenever a new video comes out. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for your time. See you soon.